各位記者朋友，歡迎。
Welcome to today's press conference. Today's press conference will be chaired by Mr. Matthew Cheung, the Chief Secretary for Administration. Other panelists are Secretary for Food and Health, Director for Health, Chief Executive of the Hospital Authority, and the Tourism Commissioner. I now ask the Chief Secretary to say a few words. I'd like to thank you all for attending this press conference at 7:30. All day we have been having non-stop high echelon meetings all the way till the evening. Now we are able to give you some information and make some announcement because I know that you're all very concerned about what's happening here. Yesterday, we announced 2 highly probable cases. After a series of tests, it is now confirmed that they are novel coronavirus infection for both cases. The Center for Health Protection and Hospital Authority have yesterday and this morning explained the details of the 2 cases in detail. The CHP Center for Health Protection has been conducting a thorough epidemic investigation and is trying to trace all contacts. Patients are sent to isolation ward for treatment in the public hospital. Professor Chan will give you more information. Earlier on, I had a long-distance call with the chief executive. As you know, that she is now attending the World Economic Forum at Davos. She's very much concerned about the epidemic in Hong Kong. I have given her a detailed report. She is alive to the situation. She has given us clear instructions by saying to us that we should enhance all protection measures. And we have to give everything we have in infection control and prevention. She has been in close contact with the high echelon of the government by telephone. We have had a cross-bureau coordination committee. It was one that was chaired by Professor Chan and it's been elevated to a higher level. I will be chairing it. There will be a number of bureaus and over 60 different sections and departments. I now can announce to you a series of new measures. They are enhancement measures. The first one is health declaration system of visitors. Starting from tomorrow, it will be extended to the West Kowloon terminus. We will require all passengers of high-speed rail trains to fill in health declaration and other information. The second measure is that when mainland high-speed rail trains reach the West Kowloon terminus, the MTR staff will send staff members to disinfect and clean the entire interior of the train. Thirdly, the CHP will enhance monitoring of suspected cases. They have also updated the notifiable criteria for severe respiratory disease associated with novel infectious agent. In relation to suspected cases and confirmed cases, we have set up a hotline 2125-1122. Starting from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., it will be in operation. That includes public holiday. In relation to close contact and other contact, they should call this number. The 2 quarantine camps are fully equipped and ready. Lady McLeod's holiday camp will operate as a quarantine camp starting from today. They will take people who need to go through tests. The other one is Lei Yu Moon Holiday Camp. It will be commissioned as a quarantine camp shortly, so we have two. The sixth point is in relation to schools. Given in light of the latest situation, the Education Bureau considers that there will be a delay of exchange programs with the mainland. Number 7, supply of masks. The Department of Health and the Hospital Authority has stockpiled inventory for 3 months of personal protective equipment, including masks. On a retail level, the Food and Health Bureau and the Department of Health have maintained close liaison with suppliers of masks. Tomorrow, we will meet with them. If I can, I will personally attend the meeting. My understanding is that there will be various batches of masks arriving in Hong Kong, so there will be a renewed availability. The next point is that unless it is essential, we appeal to the public not to go to Wuhan. If they have to go there, they have to wear masks all the way till they come to Hong Kong and 14 days afterwards. They need to wear masks to protect themselves. This is a way to protect others. Relevant health authorities will enhance publicity and education. Every day, we will hold a press conference. This is a new arrangement. At regular time, every day we will hold a press conference at the CHP. This will enhance transparency, and this will make information available more readily to the public. We will give timely and prompt responses. I would now like to say that in light of the latest situation, we are of the opinions that large-scale public activities and events may not take place.
After approaching the different organizations, we understand that the latest development is that the international exhibition, which will be held on the first 4 years of the Chinese New Year, staged by Cathay Pacific, will be cancelled. And also the Lunar New Year Football Cup at the Mong Kok Station again will be scrapped because it would not be appropriate for large crowds to attend such a function. Finally, I will now defer to the professor and the Director of Health to update to give us an update on the latest situation. Thank you, Chief Secretary. As the Chief Secretary said, we had jointly held the meeting of the third meeting of the serious response level, committee, and this is the third meeting already. Since in Hong Kong we have now 2 confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus. These are now confirmed cases, and we therefore have to we have to actually work together with all the relevant government departments and deal with the preventive measures in a focused manner, because different departments will be involved, and we will need to, and therefore we needed to, and therefore at the meeting this morning, we in a focused manner, we hope that we will be able to respond to the situation quickly. Under the preparedness and response plan, we have actually now outlined, we will now implement a series of initiatives, and we've discussed these initiatives because the infectious control is urgently needed, and the Chief Secretary has also asked the different departments to respond quickly and also to do the respective part in terms of disease prevention and control. I think we all now know by now that in Hong Kong and the neighboring region, we are steadily seeing some confirmed cases, and the number is rapidly increasing. In order to minimize the risks of infection, of course, the members of the public will have to maintain good personal hygiene, and this is very important. Other than the different government departments which have their respective contingency plans, members of the public will also need to maintain good personal hygiene and also adopt proper infection prevention practices in order to face the challenge. The Chief Secretary already announced the new initiatives that we have now launched. Our focus now is disease, surveillance and control, because the epidemic is ever changing. The Department of Health and our colleagues at the HA will step up our surveillance. Risk assessment and risk communication are also very important. Given the rapidly changing situation, the Center for Health Protection has all along been continuously assessing the risks, and should there be any imported cases, we will trace the close contacts concerned. In terms of risk communication, like the Chief Secretary said, every day we will be staging a press conference to give you, the media, a full account of the latest situation of the epidemic and what new information there are in order to ensure that there is transparency. Now that we have imported cases, we now know that we need to step up the control at the border control points and the hygiene measures. I would like to appeal to everyone to, first of all, wash your hands. And one should not just wash one's hands casually. We recommend that you should use soap and water and clean your two hands for at least 20 seconds. At the Center for Health Protection, we have a dedicated website which will show you the correct way to wash your hands. We hope that we all go and go to that website for details. Other than washing hands, there are some U-shaped air filter in domestic premises, which we recommend that you should ensure that they are properly they're in hygienic conditions and properly maintained, and that every week one should pour about half a liter of water into the U-bend pipes to ensure hygiene. That is very important. And thirdly, if one should feel unwell, if there are symptoms of infections of the respiratory tract, one should wear a mask and should not go to work or school, and should avoid going to crowded places, and that you should, seek medical consultation as soon as possible. Other than appealing to the public to maintain personal hygiene, the Chief Secretary just now said that if it is not necessary, members of the public should avoid going to the province of Hubei. If it is inevitable that you need to go, then you should wear a mask and come back. And when you come back, you should continue to wear a mask 14 days after your return from Hubei. When going to crowded places, members of the public should wear masks to protect themselves. Finally, for the imported cases in Hong Kong, we have now entered the stage of infection, control and surveillance. So we will continue to maintain vigilance. We will adopt the principle of transparency to minimize the spread and the outbreak of the epidemic. In order to do a good job in terms of prevention, we would need the cooperation of our medical professionals and all the stakeholders, so that we can all together face this challenge in public hygiene. We have an expert panel actually starting from the 31st of December last year, where we knew about the outbreak of the pneumonia in Wuhan. We have had regular meetings with our experts and listened to their analysis and assessment of the situation. They also had given us their expert advice to help us with our surveillance and control work. The epidemic is still evolving. So the Center of Health, the Food and Health Bureau, I think our core committee is almost meeting every day to discuss our contingency measures. And we have also been constantly seeking the advice of our experts and have meetings with them so that together with a member of the public, we'll be able to face this public health challenge together. I would like to report that up as of 4 p.m. today, I'd like to talk about the progress of the tracing of the contacts for the 2 confirmed cases. The first patient, who is 39 years old, there are altogether 8 close contacts. The 3 close contacts for this patient are now or are on the way of being sent to the Lady Maclehose holiday camp for quarantine. The remaining 5 close contacts are not in Hong Kong. We have already informed the health authorities in the relevant jurisdiction to follow up. For this particular case, we have 46 other contacts, not direct contacts, 6 of whom have already showed relevant symptoms, and they are categorized as suspected cases, and we've arranged for them to be taken to the hospital for quarantine. For the other 40 contacts, there are no symptoms, and therefore they are now subject to medical surveillance. For the second case, which involved a 56-year-old patient, there are altogether 4 close contacts. The patient has 2 close contacts in Hong Kong. We are now arranging for them to be sent to the Lady Maclehose Holiday Center for surveillance. There is 1 close contact who has already gone to the Prince of Wales Hospital, and at the appropriate time, we will send them to the quarantine center. Another close contact also showed relevant symptoms, and it is now categorized as a suspected case and has been taken to the hospital for isolation treatment.
There are 17 that are classified as close contacts. They have no presentation of symptoms, so they will be under clinical surveillance. This is the question and answer session. Please put up your hand, identify yourself and your organization before asking your questions. The second row, I am from the Apple Daily. I am you. I have a number of questions to ask. Well, the Chief Executive, Mrs. Carrie Lam, seemed to care a lot about the development of the epidemic. How come she did not choose to cut short her trip to come back to Hong Kong early? Is it the case that she has given you directions over the phone? That's why you can make the announcement today. Yesterday, there was an announcement or policy that starting from tomorrow, for private cars, rental cars, when they go to the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge, they will be waived of the $150 fees. Has the Hong Kong SAR government has ever fought against this policy? Because yesterday, after the announcement, there was a public outcry because people are afraid that there will be more vehicles coming to Hong Kong, increasing the risk of infection. I see Mr. Matthew Cheung and Ms. Sophia Chen and a number of officials, they do not wear masks. Previously, Mr. Matthew Cheung was coughing, and it seems that Ms. Constance Chan was also coughing. You ask people to fight against this epidemic, and you ask people to wear masks when they are amongst a lot of people. How come they don't how come you don't wear a mask to show that you are working with us together to fight against this epidemic? Well, regarding masks, I would defer to the experts, to the doctors. The chief executive is very concerned about our situation, even before she left Hong Kong. Well, she could not cut short her trip because she has a very tight schedule. In the small hours on Saturday, the first day of the Chinese New Year, she would arrive in Hong Kong. That means tomorrow evening she would be leaving Switzerland. It was only a 3 to 4 day trip, including flight time. She had to attend this trip because it's a very high-level meeting, a World Economic Forum with a number of state leaders and business leaders. She attended the forum to explain about Hong Kong's situation, to make clarifications, to make speeches, and to contact state leaders and business leaders. This is a very important trip, and it's very important to Hong Kong as well. This is a significant duty visit. It's not just an ordinary meeting. We talk to her every day. It's not the case that, after our discussion, we call this press conference. Well, after the steering committee, we had a string of other meetings. The chief executive reminded us to step up our efforts. Well, she has given us some words that are boosting to our morale. Well, this is our decision. We have made decisions to formulate the 8 to 9 measures and to make the announcement. We will continue with our effort. We will fine-tune our strategies. We will do our best to make sure that Hong Kong will succeed in prevention and response against this disease. Ms. Chen, Secretary, I'd like to say that yesterday when there was an imported case of highly probable case, which is a highly probable case, we reported to the chief executive as well as the acting chief executive. At that time, the chief executive over the phone told me about her concern. She said that we will have to disseminate information as soon as possible and be as transparent as possible. Every day, we will hold a press conference to disseminate information about most updated information. That's what I said to the chief executive. In relation to the steering committee of the serious response level, today was the 3rd meeting. This is one of the elements in the preparedness and response plan. For the serious response level, there will be a steering committee chaired by me. Every time we will talk to departments about the latest situation of the epidemic. We will follow up with the prevention measures taken up by different departments. Today, Mr. Matthew Zhang, the CS4A, co-chaired the meeting with me and gave us a lot of input. So what we announced today is the result of our discussion. Mr. Yu mentioned about my coughing. I was going to clarify last night. I have no health issues. I don't have a fever. Perhaps it was because the environment was rather dry. I coughed a few times. I took my temperature. So I don't have any health problems. And I'd like to clarify that because there has been a lot of press reports casting doubt on my health. If necessary, of course, I will wear a surgical mask. If one doesn't feel well, if one goes to a crowded place, they should wear a surgical mask. I'll defer to the director. Well, there are two colleagues of mine, Dr. Zhang and Dr. Lai. When they attended a press conference, wore masks because they have been to Wuhan. Other people, unless they present symptoms in just ordinary settings, there is no need to wear masks. Well, there is low traffic in the Hong Kong Joy Macau Bridge, at about 3,000 or so. The waiver apply only to small vehicles. There will not be too many vehicles using the bridge. You need to have a license for the different places, so there is no need to worry about it. The person wearing glasses.
Okay. The government just announced from tomorrow all passengers arriving the high-speed rail terminus will be required to fill in that declaration form. Will you agree that the government is acting in hindsight, because medical experts have for days asked you to do such thing? And why other visitors from different border checkpoints are not required to do the same? Is the government not taking this matter seriously enough? And my second question is, why no travel warning has been issued to Wuhan? Is it a political decision because the government don't want to embarrass the central government? And finally, is the government aware of any other highly suspected cases as of now? Thank you.
I will deal with the first question and then leave it to Dr. Chen to elaborate a bit further on why other border control points would not practice this at the moment. The reason why we go for mandatory health screening form for those passengers using the high-speed rail was examined in detail today. As I said in my press stand-up the other day, I said that we would rule out the possibility of extending it, not just to Wuhan passengers, but to other passengers from the mainland. And in fact, I raised the question this morning at the meeting, and we had a very, very successful, very fruitful discussion. The conclusion is, in the light of what's happening now, particularly the recent events, we've decided to extend it to passengers from other cities as well. In other words, using the high-speed rail. You should fill in the form and provide information to the fullest possible extent. But for other border crossing points, I will leave it to Dr. Chen explain later why there's a technical point there. But we won't rule the possibility in the long term. But in the immediate term, priority is the high-speed rail first, okay? The second question is whether travel warning has been issued. As I said earlier, we've advised schools authorities, for example, to hold off the so-called experiential tour to the mainland. A lot of schools organize this during the holidays and so on, until the situation has settled, has stabilized later on. So we would do, from time to time, so-called advisory, travel advisory issued to people, the stakeholders concerned. So they leave it to Dr. Chen now to explain the cross-border point, the other points.
Yes, actually at the very onset of the event, we have already engaged top scientists and microbiologists in advising the government in our response measures. So we dedicated our available resources to the most efficient and effective means. And so we decided, based on a risk assessment approach, we determined that using temperature screening at all border control points would be the priority measures. And it proved to be so, because you will notice from yesterday, the first case, it was actually picked up by our temperature screening. And we have picked up cases who fill in the forms without declaring any problems, but was actually detected by our temperature screening. So as the epidemiology evolves, we have reviewed our manpower and considered that if we could introduce health declaration point at the West Kowloon terminal with the high-speed rail, we could focus more on the health declaration form may be able to assist us in contact tracing. This would be useful because if the health declaration form includes the contact details and the carriage have specific allocation to specific passengers, it would be useful. On the other hand, when there's no specific allocation of seat on a carriage, it may not be very effective in assisting contact tracing. So we decided to, as a first step, based on the current situation, introduce the temperature screening, and on top of that, the health declaration form at the Kowloon high-speed rail station. As at today at 5 p.m., there's none.
第二行白色衫個位。
Second row, the lady in white. I'm from the Economic Journal. I'd like to ask, this is for the Chief Secretary. You say that implementing the health declaration form at the high-speed rail station is to aim at preventing cross-infection. So you're able to do that now. What were the difficulties previously, and how have you been able to resolve those difficulties? Secondly, we now have some infected cases. Will you ban visitors from the mainland to Hong Kong, and when will you consider doing that? How many confirmed cases do you need before you do that? Earlier, there have been cases of people who did not have a fever but have been confirmed to be infected. There have been cases of people who have arrived other than through the high-speed railway station. They may, for example, go to from other places in the mainland and then transit in Shenzhen and come to Hong Kong. So shouldn't we, require all travelers to the mainland to fill in health declaration forms? Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to trace the relevant patients. I think our preliminary analysis is that regarding questions like cross-infection and so on, on that day in question, I already said that we will not rule out the possibility that we would do it. So today we had a very in-depth discussion, and we found that in the light of the latest situation, that is, we have two highly probable cases. We explore whether there are other alternative measures that we could adopt. We now have decided that we don't have to, give the passengers the health declaration form before they arrive at immigration. So we can let them fill in the form while they're still on the train. So they don't have to fill in the forms at the counter. So there is a distance between the place where they fill in the form and where there is a big crowd. So that can ensure safety. We've also have the agreement from the border control points in the mainland. So through our efforts and our cooperation with our mainland counterparts and also the MTRC, so all of us have all worked hard on this, and I'm very pleased that with the result. Now we are distributing these forms because it can help us do the tracing, because if you arrive from the high-speed railway, you will be assigned seats. For ordinary trains, your people will simply sit randomly on the train. We wouldn't be able to find out, which particular compartment the passenger was sitting on. So we will now, first of all, start with the high-speed railway. We will not rule out extending this to other railways. But the first thing we want to ensure is that we will be able to, trace the contacts. What was your third question? I think it would depend on the actual situation. We cannot actually. So I think we're going to have a press conference every day. Do you have an overall plan? We would like to know. It would be too late if we wait until it happens. We don't have any numbers. It would depend on the actual situation. We haven't reached the emergency state yet. The emergency state would mean that the Secretary will, in the light of the actual situation, say if there is a local outbreak, person-to-person, infection. That would be the emergency situation. When we reach that stage, of course, we will fine-tune our policies in the light of the changing situation. We can step up our measures. We can also tune down the measures as well. There is flexibility here. As to when you will raise the alert level to every day, we are continuously monitoring the state of the epidemic, and also monitor the close contacts of the infected cases. Of course, we would also pay attention to the situation in the mainland and how the outbreak of the epidemic there. We understand that the WHO is also holding high-level meetings, and they will be making recommendations. If regarding the preparedness level, the highest level would be the emergency level. When they're at the emergency level, it would mean that there is a major outbreak in the community, and when the risk is high, only that would be the time when we will, elevate it to the emergency level. The control measures that we have now adopted, we will constantly enhance these control measures, prevention and control measures, while we are implementing these measures. It doesn't mean that the disease will not come in Hong Kong. Given the Lunar New Year holiday, where there is frequent traffic, the question is that when infected persons come, the important thing is how we can stop them and also intercept any travelers who have been infected. I think the director can also explain that the work that they are doing in terms of the tracing of the close contacts. I think on the health declaration form, we will be able to know where the passenger is sitting on the train. So this is only part of the tracing that we do. As the director said, as the state of the epidemic changes, we will adjust our measures accordingly. So we have all these measures, which are ready. So I'd like to ask the director to further supplement.
When the Center for Health Protection received a confirmed case, we will liaise with the hospital and the patient to get information and medical history. We learn from the patient about family members, colleagues, and if they have taken public transport, we will get information about their seats. Depending on the mode of transport, we will contact railway operators or airliners when we conduct an investigation of who the close contacts are. If the patient takes the high-speed rail train, then we will include 2 rows before and in front and the back. For airplane, we follow the European practice. It's also 2 rows in front and 2 rows behind. I'm from the commercial radio. The current situation is that there is an outbreak in Macau. In Macau, there is a certain measure. Well, they will announce the number of people coming from Wuhan. Can you provide similar information about Hong Kong? If not, what are you going to do? Because obviously there is an outbreak in the community. People coming from Wuhan is high risk. So how can you do something about stopping at the source? There are some media saying that there is an organized tour coming from Wuhan via Shenzhen to Hong Kong. Is there any arrangements that when people or organized tour coming to Hong Kong through various border control points, you will be able to trace them? So what can you do better to stop it at the source? Is it too late just to enhance your prevention? Well, another measure of Macau is that if you have a fever, you're not allowed to leave, and there is a restriction on the purchase of masks. Well, if you have been to pharmacies, you'll know that masks have been out of stock, and if there is any available, they are very expensive. You say that they will only come to Hong Kong next week. What can you do for Hong Kong people in the meantime? I will defer to Ms. Chan for the current situation. At the airport, we have the declaration, and this measure has been extended to the high-speed rail. All passengers coming using the high-speed rail will have to fill in the health declaration, and on top of that, there is the standing measure of measuring body temperature. So we have checks at various boundary control points. Well, we do not rule the possibility of doing something like that at the airport. If the flight comes from the mainland, we might do something about it. We are looking into it and will make a decision as soon as possible. The seat is very important. If we know where they sit, it will be easier to trace. Otherwise, we'll be looking for a needle in a haystack. If we can locate the patient, we will have at least some basic information to start. I'll defer to the director. Visitors coming to Hong Kong via Shenzhen, as I said, the most effective way to trace them is through checking our body temperature. So all boundary control points have this facility whereby body temperature of visitors are checked. I'll defer to the Tourism Commissioner to give us some more information about organized tours. As far as I know, Wuhan has stopped all outbound tours. For tours leaving Hong Kong, as far as I know, they don't go to Wuhan and they don't go via Wuhan. The trade is very concerned about it and they attach a lot of importance to it. We have close contact with hotels. We have to make sure that suitable preventive measures according to instructions of the Department of Health will have to be followed. Sorry, speakers, it's off mic. Do you have information about number of people in Hong Kong who are from Wuhan? We don't have the information at hand. We will try to find the information from the Immigration Department. Well, we have about 100 Hong Kong people in Wuhan. Can you find the information? We'll follow up with the Immigration Department. What about stopping people with a fever from leaving? And purchase of masks. Similar measures as Macau. These are very close to the heart of Hong Kong people. You said that there will be a batch of masks coming to Hong Kong only next week. We will do our best to liaise with suppliers. Of course, on a retail level, suppliers are very important. We will keep in close contact with suppliers. Tomorrow morning, there will be another urgent meeting. We'll talk to them about expediting shipment to see if masks can arrive earlier. We know that people are scrambling for masks. Secretary, we know that you're all very concerned about masks. The Hospital Authority and the Department of Health provide sufficient masks and personal protective gear to staff. There is sufficient supply with an inventory of 3 months. We know that members of the public are also very concerned about this. Well, when the epidemic started in Wuhan, we have been monitoring the supply of masks. That's why we said that there will be a number of batches of masks coming to Hong Kong next week. It was the result of our endeavors. In the past few weeks, we talked to suppliers to ensure supply. Apart from sourcing from different countries, well, we're doing something. So it's not just masks made in the mainland. There is a large quantity of masks coming to the mainland, and they are also sourced from other parts of the world. As the CS4A said, we will do our best. I'd like to say something about fever. Well, all the measures are based on science. You may have a fever if you just have an ordinary respiratory disease. Under CAP 599A, if someone is suspected of suffering from a designated disease, well, the novel coronavirus is one of those designated or specified disease. Or if someone has suffered from this specified disease, the Department of Health may, by order, prohibit that person from leaving Hong Kong. I'm Hong Kong 01. My name is Kwong. Well, this morning there was a flight arriving in Hong Kong from Wuhan, and there's already an outbreak. So did you trace the passengers from that flight? Do you know where they are? The hotline of the Department of Health. How many people have called the hotline to ask for assistance? How many of them are mainlanders? How many of them are from Hong Kong? Just now the CS4A said that the Education Bureau will suggest to schools to delay these mainland exchange tours. Would they ask schools to suspend school after the Chinese New Year? And what are the criteria of a suspension? Well, you said that there are 100 Hong Kong people in Wuhan. What are their situations? Did they ask for assistance? Are they stuck in Wuhan?
I'll first of all ask the Department of Health to answer the question regarding the plane from Wuhan this morning. We have tracing by infrared, and I had a look at this last week, so it's very clear. We can clearly, check whether or not anyone has fever. So if somebody has a fever, we will be able to immediately intercept the person. So I believe. So we have not yet received any highly suspected cases. So I think that's the situation this morning. The plane this morning has been subject to the high-level screening. All passengers alighting will have to make a health declaration, and all of them would also have to go through a temperature screening test. So this is already a very, very foolproof measure. As for the hotline, we have so far received 71 calls. I can give you a detailed breakdown in writing afterwards. As to under what circumstances would the Education Bureau will announce the closure of schools after the Chinese New Year. That would depend on how the epidemic develops. We don't want the situation to deteriorate, or we hope that it could be controlled. But we are monitoring the situation every day. We'll be holding a press conference every day. Whenever there's any new development, we will give a full account to the public, so the parents and the teachers don't need to worry. If there should be any changes, there will be advance notice. We will allow sufficient time, for example, if need be, for schools to be closed. We will monitor the situation every day and every hour. We will not stop. Even during the holidays, throughout the Chinese New Year holiday, we will all still be working. We're also concerned about the 100 people from Hong Kong in Wuhan. I personally talk to the departments concerned. We have economic trade office in Wuhan. Since I think So there are hundreds of them in Wuhan, and there is a hotline, and they can also communicate through cell phones. And these Hong Kong residents can also call up the immigration department through a hotline. So our colleagues at the ETO in Wuhan, I think given the small number of Hong Kong residents in Wuhan, we already know who they are, whether they are students or on business. I don't think there are many people who are, they're on business. So I don't think you need to worry. The first thing we need to worry, I think the residents of Hong Kong in Wuhan, if there is if necessary, if there is a need for assistance, they can certainly call up our hotline there in Wuhan. Thank you.
We will have constant communications with you. As I said, every day, the CHP will give you information. The secretary and the director will give you information as soon as there is any update. It's difficult to tell you now, but we will closely monitor the situation. We will be very prepared. I hope you all have a good Chinese New Year.